One. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fifth Dimension live video podcast. I'm your co-host, Matthew J. Haas, and with me tonight, always on the show, Mr. Dave Schumacher, my colleague. How's it going, Mr. Dave Schumacher? How are you tonight?
I'm good, Matt. How are you? Glad to
I'm
be
doing
on
pretty.
again. Sorry we missed last week. We just had some stuff going on, but glad to be back this week. And we got an unofficial guest, Jen, sitting off to the side. My wife Jen's off to the side tonight to listen to the discussion.
No problem. Hey, Jen.
Hey,
I'm always a
Matt.
big, hey, always a big fan of Jen. All right.
Ditto.
All right.
Yeah, she's a
So,
big fan.
yeah, good. Well, she better be.
No expectations there.
I just put her on the top high expectation.
There you go.
All right, so welcome to the show, guys. As always, I like to point out to our listeners and people, I have to stop pretending we're doing radio podcasts. We're on video. So if you go to our live YouTube channel, in the video box, next to the video box, there's a live chat going on. Um, I'm not there yet. I'm gonna get there now. So, how you doing, Dave?
I'm good. We just had another nice winter storm here, so we spent the weekend mostly in the house. It's about I don't know what, a whopping 3-4 degrees out, so it's lovely weather. Good night to do a video podcast and not go outside.
I have to shuttle.
Yeah, right.
But the snowball.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, everything's good here. Been doing a little reading on some more near-death experiences and picked up another academic book that's a publication of a bunch of different journal articles from the Journal of Near-Death Studies. So,
All right.
that's what I'm doing. How you
time out.
doing? How are
I'm
you?
all right. I just put on our. We're not live yet. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh. It says live up in the corner there.
Did it?
It does.
All right. Well, because
On my screen it does.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we can start again.
Oh, I'm looking. Hang on. Just bear with me. All right. Hang on. Here we go. Yes, we are live. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
good.
All right. My
At
bad.
least you look good. You look
All right.
alive. You don't look dead.
Okay.
So that's a good
Okay.
sign. But most
All
people
right.
don't know they're seeing a ghost until after they're gone. So I don't know. Maybe you are.
He doesn't look like a ghost.
He looks like Batman.
All right.
I wish he was.
All right. So before I rudely interrupted you and myself, I was going to say there's a live chat room next to the video box on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's not fancy. There's nothing special about it. But I think you can be a non-member of YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. If you have a Google account, I believe that you can get on there very easily to chat with us during the show without any problems, or hopefully you won't have any problems like I do. So you're welcome to chat with us during the show, ask us questions, leave us feedback as always. We really appreciate that. We had a nice lady leave us a comment and good feedback from our last show. And I just want to publicly thank Dan Class once again for being our guest last week. We had a lot of fun with him, and it was a great show. We plan on having many more of that, so hopefully we get more guests in the future, and you guys will, you'll be entertained. So anyway, Dave, you were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Things are good here. Just hanging out, enjoying the winter and the cold weather, spending a little time catching up on some near-death experiences reading. And yeah, that's about it. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I had a bunch of guests over at my house last night, and they were here late. So I didn't go to bed till maybe like 2:30 in the morning, just cleaning up for the night and whatnot. So you know how that is when you have a lot of guests over, you end up cleaning up
Yep.
afterwards and whatnot. But I feel like I was doing an investigation. Like I feel like my butt has been kicked. I
Yeah,
feel like I've
we
been
don't
up.
miss that part at all. That
No.
the paranormal hangover. Ugh.
Yeah, that's what I call it. I call it that. Yeah.
Oh God.
Uh, Getting old sucks.
I
You
did
know.
that more than once.
Oh my God, we say that every day we get up.
Yeah.
I know.
Don't do
Yeah.
it. Just don't do it.
Actually, you know what I catch?
We have a
You know
live
what I catch?
audience tonight.
You know what I catch myself saying a lot with my coworkers at work is, "Well, I'll see you tomorrow if God willing."
Yeah, you get a little older where we are, and you get up in the morning.
Do it.
I woke up again.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
All right.
All right.
So yeah, looking forward to the topic tonight. And again, sorry we couldn't make it, but we'll continue on with that topic, and I look forward to discussing it.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. The topic for tonight is we chose to pick pseudo skeptics and experts in the paranormal community, people that claim to call themselves experts. I mean, there could be experts in the paranormal community that, you know, they are paranormal hobbyists or people who are paranormal investigators who have, you know, expertise. You know, they could have background. uh it could be a videographer, they could be a audio engineer, they could be a doctor, they could have PhDs, they could be a parapsychologist with degrees. um you know, there are scientists who are in the field, and I thought this just would be a really great topic because skeptics eat this shit up. And you know, it's just because for me, like they pick on everything that we say in the paranormal community, and experts is one of them. And they just, you know, they tend to attack everybody who calls themselves expert. You know, they're an expert in this, they're an expert in that. But not for nothing, wake up call, there are real experts in the paranormal community. They exist, they're out there. You know, there are people that have been in this paranormal community and doing paranormal research for many years with degrees and having really great background, college background and whatever. So I'll leave it there, Dave, if you want to take it off from there.
Yeah, I think there's people that claim to be skeptics, but we have to define and people that are cynics. I mean, obviously, a real skeptic keeps an open mind, and even they'll acknowledge there are certain experts in the field. So I think you got to look at what a true skeptic is versus what a cynic is. A cynic is not going to believe anything and is very negative, and just there's a whole different thing. People that are saying they're skeptics, parading around as skeptics, that are cynics. And are there experts in the field? Sure. There's people that gain expertise by spending field, reading, learning, you know, shadowing people, taking classes, having basic understanding, and spending time in the field. And yeah, there are parapsychologists, there are scientists, but even within the scientific community, we got to realize that if you're a biologist, you may not be an expert in molecular biology. You might be an expert in plant biology. So even within scientific fields, there's experts that are really focused on what they do. So you almost need to be like a generalized specialist to do things in any field and to be good at it. So the paranormal is a tough one because, yeah, parapsychologists are honestly the only people that are really academically trained in the field. But we also have to remember that most parapsychologists don't study ghosts and hauntings, and they
Right.
don't look into it. They're more concerned about ESP and pre-microkinesis. Some of them do some work in life after death stuff, which involves near-death experiences, reincarnation, end-of-life experiences. But you hardly ever see a parapsychologist spend a lot of time in what would consider paranormal investigation at a haunted location.
Right. No, I agree.
Oh, Jen, come on. What do you got to say?
No, I'm
Go ahead. Go.
there's also people who are not like specialists in their field, but they're hobbyists, such as Dave, in the paranormal field for 20 some years.
Yeah, thanks for dating me.
Sorry. Yeah, I dated you. But I'm saying
I'm
that,
right
there's
up there, so
other
don't feel
people.
bad.
Of course you too. But there's also people, who are doing this that are specialists, I guess, if you want to say that, but really haven't really, gotten that official,
degree or
in
credentials
because, went there.
So but
there's
it's
a lot
all
of
about
people.
learning and reading and
Exactly.
and figuring out where to go for information. And there's obviously, as you know, Matt, there's people that you spend enough time doing something, you develop a level of expertise.
Right. Just like you, Matt,
Mhm.
And the one thing I've noticed is, when some skeptics tell you there's no experts in the field, but yet they give you their expert opinion on psychology and parapsychology and things that are outside of their realm, I think I start having a problem where if you're going to claim there's no experts, but then you're stepping out of your comfort zone to claim to be an expert in an area, to me, you're really being a little and trying to be an expert in something you just said nobody has expertise in.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it bluntly, they're being an asshole.
Matt, I love you more now.
Get it right out there.
I am.
I think when I started looking at some of the information for this topic, I wanted to dig into it and see what I could find. There's some pretty interesting stuff. I actually came across an article in Politico.com, and it was more aimed at politics and experts of, like the CDC and the EPA and all the stuff going on in the government. We're not going to bring politics into this, but they made some really good points. Yeah, we don't want to do that because that'll just go to hell really fast. I'll have to build a wall, Matt, and then we won't see each other.
Yeah. Who's going to pay for it?
Exactly.
We don't want to shut the show down for a month. So it was really interesting. Tom Nichols, in September and October of 2017 in Political.com, he made a couple really good points in what experts and why everybody is an expert. It was really interesting. He made the point that skepticism has almost turned into something dangerous, where you're skeptical of everything. Human person might be like parents are skeptical of doctors. They're skeptical of vaccines. Why? Only mainly because they're confident in their point of view. So they believe they're experts in the field for no reason besides self-affirmation. Like, oh, I'm an expert. I read something.
This has become statewide. It's been
nationwide.
Yeah.
I mean, and he goes on to say like they're coddled in the classrooms.
Yep.
You don't ever really get a bad grade. You just try again.
Yeah.
I love this term, the infotainment personality. So basically the para personalities.
Yeah.
I mean, that they are embedded in media and in the culture of everybody. No matter how crazy they are, no matter what they say, if you're on TV and you're a celebrity and you're infotainment, you're an expert.
Right.
I mean, that's great,
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to our children, we really worry.
Yeah. But it's not just children anymore. It's adults are like this.
Right.
I mean, anybody in the field, you've seen it. I mean, look, this is exactly what we talk about. People watch TV. And that's the way it is in the paranormal.
Yeah.
Or you read a magazine, and I'm gonna, there's scientific journals and there's magazines.
Mm-hmm.
Reading a magazine does not make you an expert on anything.
No.
And even if it puts forth a view that's more accepted by science or it's more skeptical, just because it's a magazine.
Yeah.
I mean, people look at things and they hear what other people say and they see stuff on TV or in magazines or TV personalities because, oh, he's a science dude on TV. He's an expert. Well, he might be an expert in a certain field, but he's not an expert on psychology and ghosts and hauntings and parapsychology.
Right.
So it
Right.
goes on. This guy goes on. It was great. The internet tells them exactly what they want to hear. So
Mhm.
you hear something on TV, and what do? You go find 100 websites that tell you the same thing they just told you on TV. And
Yeah.
no matter how ridiculous it is, that's what people see. So I thought it was really interesting that he was aiming at politics, but I see a lot of that carrying through in both people who are, skeptics, pseudo skeptics, and experts on both sides of the aisle. And it's not just
Mhm.
the people who are the ghost hunters. I mean, I see a lot of, I'm seeing a new trend, and I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a trend of, if our group didn't do it or this group didn't do it and we doubt everything, that makes us experts and better than everybody else. And quite honestly, they're spewing the same amount of crap that they're accusing the true believers of spreading as well.
It's hard. It's a hard
It's
road to.
sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It is.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's my
It-
initial rant.
Yeah. My rant is my issue with the label of experts in the paranormal community. We have a lot of people in the community who do label themselves that don't have the proper background with their labeling, and they're embellishing their title of what they do with their team or as an individual. They're making themselves sound better with certain terms and words, like flashy words, to make them look really good. Like you say, if they're on TV, they want to make the audience think, oh, because they're on TV and now they have this label next to their name, they have this special title, and unfortunately now that's going around the whole community like like a virus. And unfortunately, it's the pseudo skeptics and the skeptics that are preying on people like that, that's breaking the field down, where they're choosing easy targets, with people like that. And if I don't know about you guys, but for me, I don't see the hardcore pseudo skeptics and the skeptics who are really into, like, that are, I'm gonna say, benefiting the paranormal community. Not the ones that don't, and we know which ones that don't. But I'm saying the ones that can actually benefit the paranormal community from a skeptic standpoint. But um, like, now I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
But
Keep going.
yeah, but they're preying on those type of people. And my thing is, neither field. All right, this is. I mean, we all know it's not a proven science. Okay, is it more mainstream? Yes. Is there more media involved? Yes. Is it more recognized by the world and by scientists? Yes. Is it, do more people with those type of backgrounds get involved? Yes. Um, but it's still not scientifically proven. And, like, my thing is, you know, both the skeptic world and the paranormal world are equal. There's no, like, higher power of either side that, we're sitting here telling each other what to do and what not to say. And but that which is why I said, kind of in the description of the topic for the show tonight, where I say the battle rages on, because that battle is just always going to be there no matter what, unfortunately, because they just one side's not going to see equal and the others, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if what I'm saying is getting across right, but
Yeah, I think the problem is, though, that neither of those people and sides that you're talking about have really looked at what's been done in the last 100 and plus years by actual scientists and other people that devoted their time and efforts to the field, and published and worked out methods to explore these things. I find that, you get in an argument with a believer, they don't know. And this is one thing I've always talked about. People don't know the parapsychological literature, the psychological literature, and the skeptical literature, and all the other fields that, you really should at least have a working knowledge of. The problem is
Yeah.
people come in and they say there's absolutely nobody knows anything. Well, that's absolutely wrong. It's wrong. There's thousands of publications for and against parapsychological phenomena, life after death, near death, reincarnation, ghosts and hauntings. There's tons of stuff out there. So to come out there and say there's absolutely nothing is wrong on both sides. And I hear it on both sides. And for people to say we don't know anything about this or that, okay, we might not know what a ghost is. That's a given. Nobody knows exactly what it is. But to say we don't know anything about what may or may not cause people to experience it, or the environmental factors, or the different personality traits, or, why have people reported the same things over hundreds and hundreds of years, hundreds of thousands of people? So to say we don't know anything just tells me that people they're not dumb. No, they're speaking from a point of ignorance of information at this point.
They just don't know what they're talking about, and they're not involved in what's going on with the.
And to come back and say just because it's not accepted by mainstream science that there's nothing to it, that's wrong. There was I meant to look up the guy's name. You think I would know it because I deal with public health sometimes. But there was a doctor that he basically ended up in a lunatic asylum because he said you could reduce the certain incidence of disease and fever in babies and moms by doctors washing their hands. And they told him, they forced him into a mental institution because they said he was nuts. So they eventually proved out that, actually germ theory was proved out. And it's really too bad because that was coming from people who were experts in the medical and public health community telling somebody else, you're saying something that doesn't agree with us and we don't know about, so it's wrong. So there's a lesson there to be learned. And he used to scientists never believe there was such thing as meteorites. When farmers said these things are falling into our fields, they're like rocks from the sky. You guys are nuts. So just because we don't understand or we don't know what the mechanism is yet, that's what skeptics and cynics say, is you guys can't tell us what a ghost is. You can't tell us how telepathy works. Okay, well, there's been instances in science in the past where people have not known a mechanism, still found out that, there's actually something going on.
You're still trying to find that little,
that
thing that's making it work for you. So,
according to them, we're nuts, so we should be in an asylum. So,
well, the problem is, people who say there's no such thing as a ghost experience. Really? Are you going to go and take a look at all the psychological bereaved nations and people who 50+% of people who lose a spouse, especially the elderly, have they have what we would call a ghost-like experience. They have a bereavement hallucination. Now, they term it something different in the medical literature, in psychiatry and psychology and therapy, but that the medical community recognizes people have experiences. Do they know where it's coming from necessarily? They say it's internally generated, it's in the brain. But that gets to another point. When people who are supposed experts say, you can't take anything somebody tells you, it doesn't mean anything. And the expert opinion is ghosts don't exist, so there's no sense in studying this because you don't know what they are, and all a bunch of BS. Well, then how come the medical community has taken bereavement hallucinations so seriously, especially when they keep occurring and then they have to do something about it? Now, I'm not saying that proves life after death, but that's based on experiences again. And it's people take it, but there is data there. There's things there. So to dismiss all this stuff, if you think you're an expert and you're dismissing data outright, you're no expert at all. You have no idea what you're talking about on both sides.
Yeah. No, I agree. What I want to get into is Dave and I have actually caught certain individuals on the skeptic community with their pants down, where they go out boldly saying, this is crap, that's crap, or getting wrong information about this and that, and we've waved shit right in front of them and say, no, you're wrong. Here's this literature. Go do your homework, and all they do is chuckle and laugh rather than acknowledging, oh yeah, I made a mistake, I didn't do my homework. Like, it's just like, acknowledge that you're wrong just as much as the next human being can be wrong about what we're doing. This is all trial and error. It's like, it's research, and in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with what anybody's doing in the paranormal community. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's bold to say too, because there's a lot of bad element out there that do a lot of wrong things. But what I'm saying, as far as the serious researchers out there that are doing the right thing, but that pisses me off. And we've caught so many people with their pants down, and I just think it's wrong to be those type of people to prey on and those type of people, and we know exactly who we're talking about, Dave, but they prey on the groups that are kind of a little bit on the weak side, and they take that kind of garbage from these type of people. But I do see more people taking a stand against that kind of skeptic community a little bit more these days, which I'm happy to see that a little bit. But it's just
Yeah.
it pisses me off that you're not going to take the time to go out, read the literature, like I said, that exists, that is out there, that has been out there for years. It doesn't take, you have it. Listen, we all know it's easy to hide behind a computer. Well, you have your computer right in front of you. Do the homework. It's not that hard. Just type on your keyboard and use Google. Google. I mean, I love Google. Google finds me everything. Google it. It's there.
Yeah, that brings up another good point, which I found another article in, what is it, psychologicalscience.org, July 14th, 2015. It was interesting because they talked about people who thought they were experts, and it gets a little bit at what you're talking about. And there's a couple points that they made that was really good. One of them was, if one, and I'm kind of reading this so I get it right, if one perceives oneself as an expert in a field, they sometimes claim bogus things are true in that field because they just, I'm an expert, so something I hear, I'm going to assume that must be right. And also they overclaim. So in self-proclaimed experts, they'll discourage individuals like themselves from educating themselves in areas that they consider themselves expert in, because they're like, I'm already an expert in it. I already know it doesn't exist. I already know everything about that field, which they might not. So then they fail to recognize they might actually have a knowledge gap. So then they look at it and go, I already know everything, so why should I go read and find out more? Which gets at what you're talking, where they don't want to, I don't know if they don't want to go and do it, or they feel like they don't need to because they're experts. So, and you talk,
it's pure laziness.
Yeah.
It's laziness. They're lazy.
All right, Matt, can we step back? I just want to ask, what makes an expert?
Oh, that's a tough
What
question.
makes someone an expert in the field?
Damn, that's a good question.
I mean, I'm just asking because, we've all been there. We've all made those, we've worked hard to get to where we are. So,
Sure.
We want to make sure that our claims are very well documented. And, and so when other people come up and claim that they're an expert, when they may not be, how do we determine what they are, and how do we determine if they are an expert or not?
Sure. Can I emphasize on that?
Pretty basic, but good question. I mean,
Yeah.
How do we know?
Well, the one way that we could know is if we do our own homework and research their background and see what background they have in the area that they're claiming to be an expert in. I think. What do you guys think about experience? Like, say for example, let's just say me for example. I don't have college background, but I've been doing this long enough. I don't go around calling myself an expert, but if somebody called me an expert, in the field, because I've been doing this a long time, would that type of experience be enough to consider somebody an expert in that area?
Yeah,
Well,
I
okay, I just me because I don't have an education in this, and I
well,
don't feel
neither
that,
do I.
and I don't feel
I
like you have to. I don't
Mhm.
feel like an education is necessary to have in this field. I think that it's more experience based and what you've done to create your awareness of what's going on in that field.
Well,
And
I think it's what you do with that experience too.
Exactly.
If you keep doing the same things over and over again and you don't learn anything new and you're just parroting what people do on the TV shows, or you just tells you and you don't go out and learn on your own and improve, that's where experience is a great thing. But if you don't grow from it and you don't
Right.
learn anything, then that's where it's like, well, you can spend 20 years walking around with trying to, talk to a flashlight in haunted locations. But if you haven't learned anything and you haven't progressed, you haven't gotten better, you haven't built, that's where experience is. But people who are academics would be, they could be guilty of that too. So it's not just people who have an education or not. It's people that you have experience. It's great. It's what you do with that and what you've learned. That's my opinion.
Dave, and I think that's where people like myself who don't have like a huge education in the field can really excel, because you know what, we have not really like grasped all of everything that has to do with the field, but we know what we've experienced, we've had, and really talk to other people and give
So what are your thoughts on it, Matt?
Yeah,
I mean,
I kind of agree. I mean, so then it wouldn't be completely entirely wrong for somebody in the paranormal community to call themselves an expert, as long as they're well trained and, like you said, they develop themselves better and improve their results and where they're going with their goals and their intentions. And because let's face it, there's a lot of big portion of the community that are only gaining the same results over and over and over. They're not really going anywhere. They're going to locations, they investigate, they capture something cool and they're patting themselves on the back, like I always say on the show, good catch, bro. But it's nice to pat yourselves on the back. Sure, you may have caught something interesting and questionable, but what are you going to do with that piece of evidence that you documented? How are you going to grow? How are you going to grow with that little good catch, bro moment? What are you going to do from there? You're just going to leave it as is? Because if you're just going to leave that as is, that's where the skeptic community and the pseudo skeptic come in, and they're going to eat you alive if that's all you plan on doing.
Yeah, and I think there's a level of constructive criticism that people need to be able to take and give out and take. And there's nothing wrong with somebody, excuse me, there's nothing wrong with somebody saying, I don't know.
Right.
And I think some of the best, I spent a long time learning things. I still like to learn things, and I'm never afraid to say I don't know. And one of the best things I've ever done is always reach out and work with people that know more than I do.
Yes.
Even if I don't understand it and I don't agree with it, even an opposite point of view. But I think a lot of it is just, what I get is right, or, what you saw there is nothing but a natural explanation. You got to go outside your comfort zone. You got to look at, and you got to talk to people that, I admit it, people that know a heck of a lot more than me on certain things. And that's how you become
people out who does.
Yeah, but that's how you learn. And I think there's a lot of supposed experts on both sides that they don't know everything.
Well,
Right.
That's the thing.
That's a big problem.
We don't always know everything. None of us do. I mean, this is a great new field. So how do any of us know everything?
But here's the thing. I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. It's not a new field. It's been going on since the 1800s.
That's true. But
It's been going on since this American Society of Psychical Research and the Society for Psychical Research.
But what I'm trying to say is that we're all trying to learn,
Right.
and we're all trying to gain that knowledge. So what I'm saying is that we don't have everything personally, but there is that knowledge out there that we can gain.
Mhm.
So by reaching out and touching with other people that may know more than we do, it's a name in our field, because we can all learn.
Yeah, I agree. And I know we're going back and forth and trying to say both sides are guilty. One of the identifying features I see in what I would consider not quite a cynic, because those are just, they're not going to listen to anything. It's not worth even working with them.
Oh.
But when you have a pseudo skeptic, somebody who kind of comes across as under the false pretense of being a real skeptic, the problem I see with them is they will interact and they'll tell you, you need to read the skeptical literature because that's what you need to do. You need to open your mind, which I'm fine with that. But when you flip that around and say, well, you need to look at what's been published in the parapsychological literature and what others have done that kind of challenge your interpretation. I don't see, if you're a pseudo skeptic, I don't see them willing to do that. Real skeptics will do that. They keep an open mind, but pseudo skeptics, they don't do that. They will basically say, this is the way it is. You got to read our stuff, but we're not going to open our mind and read anything on the other side of the fence. So it's to me, that's where that whole pseudo thing is.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of this this website. I want to just read a little bit on this article I found that I thought would be a really good insert for our topic tonight. It's called anomalous.com. There's a person on here that wrote an article about pseudo skepticism. It's a commentary by Marcello Truzzi. I don't know if you ever heard of the fella, but
oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. I thought it was a really good take on pseudo skepticism. So I'm gonna, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna just, for our viewers and our listeners here, to really
we'll mute up and let you read. Go for it.
All right, cool. Over the years, I have decried the misuse of the term skeptic when used to refer to all critics of anomaly claims. Alas, the label has been thus misapplied by both proponents and critics of the paranormal. Sometimes users of the term have distinguished between so-called soft versus hard skeptics, and I, in part, revived the term satiric because of the term's misuse. But I now think the problems created go beyond more terminology, and matters need to be set right. Since skepticism properly refers to doubt rather than denial, non-belief rather than belief, critics who take the negative rather than an agnostic position but still call themselves skeptics are actually pseudo skeptics and have, I believe, gained a false advantage by usurping that label. In science, the burden of proof, I love the whole burden of proof thing, by the way, that gets thrown in our faces quite a bit. In science, the burden of proof falls upon the claimant, and the more extraordinary a claim, the heavier is the burden of proof demanded. The true skeptic takes an agnostic position, one that says the claim is not proved rather than disproved. He asserts that the claimant has not borne the burden of proof and that science must continue to build its cognitive map of reality without incorporating the extraordinary claim as a new fact. Since the true skeptic does not assert a claim, he has no burden to prove anything. He just goes on using the established theories of conventional science as usual. But if a critic asserts that there is evidence for disproof, that he has a negative hypothesis, saying, for instance, that a seeming PSI result was actually due to an artifact. He is making a claim, therefore has to bear a burden of proof. I'm going to copy this link into our chat box so that people can, who are watching our show, can just go ahead. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of a long page, but I wanted to read that little snippet there because there's a part in that paragraph that I run into quite often, which is the whole burden of proof thing. And that gets thrown in everybody's faces everywhere you go. And, you know, like, I think the use, in my opinion, the use of burden of proof is a cop out for the skeptic or pseudo skeptic, whichever you want to prefer, is a cop out or laziness on that person so that they don't have to dwell into that person's belief or stance on that piece of evidence they want to share with that person. That's just my opinion. Okay, guys.
Yeah, I guess I agree. If somebody makes a claim, let's say I I do a lot of random number generator work. I'm actually working with somebody right now, helping them do some analysis of stuff. So if I say I make a claim that the changes, let's say a random number generator is not random anymore when you go to a haunted location, and I run it, have data that shows that. I've run it in a haunted location that shows that it's not random, where people report things. So if a skeptic comes back and says that's not true, that doesn't mean that can't be true. Okay, so the burden of proof, I agree, was initially on me, but I presented data. Well, that's not true. That can be just random at that place, and it would just be it would not be random at a place. It could just as likely not be random at a place that isn't haunted. Okay, so here's where the difference is. They just made a claim, so they're trying to challenge my claim with a claim that's been made. So to me now, proof is on you to generate data to refute and argue my data. That's why I think it's really important that, as you've seen, Matt, when I get into conversations with people and there's things, I always have references, I have data, I have things that make a point. But just saying it's simply not true, or that ghost you saw was due to, I don't know, let's do a crazy example. Let's just say it's because of some medicine you're on and you're having hallucinations. You know what that claim is now? The claim is that medicine is making that person hallucinate. So yeah, you need to prove to me. And really, just because the medicine could make you hallucinate doesn't mean it did. So the burden of proof is, I think, if I make a claim, I got to prove it to you. If somebody makes a counterclaim, they have to prove it to me. Just because they throw out something that, is a possibility that's been proven. Again, let's go to the ridiculous drug hallucination thing. Just because a drug can cause you to hallucinate, you look at that side effect. That drug does not make everybody hallucinate in all instances. So just because that's been to occur, you can't throw that in the face without data.
And you can use references from other people.
Yep, we talked. Yeah, I made that point. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
good. I mean,
but
the burden of proof is not just on us. If you make a counter claim, you got to prove it.
But
if
like
you're
I
trying
said,
to tell
Dave,
your burden of proof is only on the initial claim,
right. But my whole thing is, in my opinion, it's just that's just pure laziness of that person putting the burden of proof on that other person, right? Because they're not willing to go out and collect more data to refute your data. So that's just pure freaking laziness on their part. And so therefore they're just giving you their opinion based on the information you're providing them. Therefore, all you can offer them is your opinion. And I'm sorry, but depending on the person, that opinion means squat.
Here's the other point of that is, and the other problem I see is, if you tell me the burden of proof on me is this, it's at this level, okay? And I do that. But then you say, well, no, now it's up here. They're moving the goalpost. I mean, you can't change the criteria. That's another
Right.
problem. And maybe that's something where, you know, skeptics and believers can work together is by coming up with agreed to criteria that if something does happen and you collect information, that's acceptable. That's a thing I don't see happening. If you want burden of proof, and you know, you've done it, I've done it, we've asked people, what level of proof is that? What do you want?
Exactly.
And you don't get a freaking answer. That
Nope.
to me is another example of a pseudo skeptic.
That's because they don't know.
It's a cop out.
Yeah. Well, it's a cop out. It is.
Yeah, it is.
You're exactly right. You're right.
But
I called
there
it.
are people out there who are trying to, you know, create some kind of concept of what this and that is. And that's great. I applaud them for that, just as I do you. But there are, you know, there are idealistic, if that's the word, ideas of how things should be done. And I think we all should like have a commonality of what those things are. And that it's not there.
Well, I think people have tried.
Part.
I think people have tried, but nobody's interested. So then we get to the problem on the other side of the fence.
Right.
A whole bunch of people running around because that's how they do it, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
that's the
guys, come on.
problem, is that everybody sees that what we see on TV is like commonality, and that's not true.
So
So I think that's where you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I like that. That link you found, that's perfect. I mean, it does explain, and it works on both sides. I mean, that's nobody's trying to run from burden of proof. Nobody's trying to run from it, but just because I say something, I have something to back it up, and you say no, it could be simply a misperception. You can't do that. You still have to go and provide data to support that claim.
Right.
Burden of proof and they can scream all they want about that, but when sort of a journal, in a mainstream scientific journal, and they have data and somebody disagrees with it and they propose that it's not that way, you know what they have to do? They have to run the damn experiment, collect the data, and prove wrong.
You know what? You have science behind you, so that's great.
Yep.
You know, that's the thing.
Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, I feel like I'm ranting constantly tonight.
Me too.
You know who I have support? I have Batman supporting me. That's who I have.
Batman.
We all have.
He even outlasted Superman at some point.
I think we all want like science to like support us, and I think that's the claim all along. But
science shouldn't be a doctrine either. It should be a way of gathering information and knowledge. And just because something's accepted in the mainstream,
it should be a method,
or it's not accepted in the mainstream, doesn't mean it might not exist.
Yeah. If it was.
We need to find other areas that.
Excuse me. Sorry.
You know, Matt, we need to find other areas where these are like collecting, and we need to find commonality.
So
well,
I don't know.
We need if anybody, like, if there's like potentially haunted locations that are listening to our show, watching our show, we need more locations to open their doors and let us, you know, do more experiments and do more testing and do more of this research together. And if we can find more people on common ground to work together rather than fighting against each other, you know, it would be a much better community. But
it's a turf war, though. It's a turf war.
It's a turf war, unfortunately. Yeah.
I mean, it's a turf war, and it's hard. And that's one of the reasons we got out of really doing public investigations, going to public places, private places. And the one reason was everything's getting so watered down because there's so many people out there that people didn't want the serious groups to come in, the ones that were going to spend the time, and the ones that asked a lot of questions and wanted to really get at the bottom of it. They wanted somebody to come in and affirm their beliefs, and they wanted them to tell them there's a ghost there. The other thing is we didn't feel like we were learning anything new. We kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. And we thought, okay, for us personally, we're going to step back and do some more more formal type experiments and research. But that's just us. There's nothing wrong with people going to places and doing what they're doing. But for us, I just thought, oh God, there's so many people here. It's all watered down. Nobody wants to do any real work anymore. And it's really hard to find people that want to, and places that are willing to put up with that. I know you got places that you go to over and over again, and it's great. That's the type of stuff you need to do, though, is go back over and over again. Because really, spending 2 hours one night at a place,
no, it's not enough.
what's that going to tell you?
Yeah.
So
No,
anyway,
I always say that to all the locations I work with. I tell them all the time. I say, listen, we don't work there every day. We don't live there. We're all from different locations around the state. You know, the people who work there every day know the experiences better than we do. So we have very, very little time at the places that we investigate compared to the people that are there every day. We may not necessarily stake the claims that they're claiming at these places right away. They may not happen for years. It may not happen for months. It may not happen for a long time. I've been at lots of places where they've made claims and I've never come across those claims until months or years later. Um, you know, it, I don't think it's fair to just walk into a place for one night, set up your shop, do your thing, and walk away. If you have no experiences, to claim there's nothing going on there. But obviously, these people are experiencing stuff because they've been there
right.
they've worked there for years. They've been there for years. They're obviously having some kind of experience where there are other reports, there are other witnesses, there are credible witnesses. And
You got to
just to
listen to
go
all
in
those
there.
people.
Right, you
But you're
got to
not
do
going to
the
be, yeah, you're not going to be an expert on that location or what's happening there. To getting back to our whole expert talk,
right.
there's no way you're going to get an expert opinion, even if you are an expert. How are you going to get an expert opinion by spending 2 hours there,
Exactly.
or never visiting with those people and just saying, they're all crazy. It's all in their head. They misperceive. It's rats in the attic and raccoons in the walls.
Yeah. Or if we catch something, we have to prove to them.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, if you are going to catch something, and you know this, and you are going to put it out there, it's got to be documented, recorded, and backed up accordingly. Don't put crap out there. Make sure people look at the entire thing, get the entire picture, and put it out there with everything that's involved, not just a little clip. And I think we talked about this in one of our prior shows, touched upon it. But you want to be seen as an expert. It also makes you an expert on how you present yourself, how you can, and how you put it out there, and your ability to defend it and take some constructive criticism. Nobody likes to be told they're wrong, but I'm telling you, it does make you grow,
right,
get better.
and I think one of the things. All right, so we're actually, I can't believe we're almost down to 9 o'clock already, but
Jeez.
I'm just gonna go ahead with my closing statement here because I think it'll be good for closing it out for my part. But my thing is, I think the reason people aren't so open to criticism, like we talk about, and the feedback and working so well with others, especially skeptics, is there's a lot of people out there, and a small handful, and even some individuals that we know of, that go out there. They bash people's names, they bash people's groups, they bash people's teams, they bash what they do. They say terrible things about those people. They don't even know those people on a personal level, or if they do, they're backstabbing those people by saying negative things in the public. After working with them, they turn on them, and then they write a negative paper because they didn't agree with their method or their style or terminology they used, or they gave an overview of their invitation to work with them, and then they turn around and write a negative paper about them. What kind of person are you in the paranormal community? And who the F are you to go out there and, like, say all these negative things about these people? You're damn lucky that you don't have somebody that turn around and sue your ass for inflammation to people's character, um defamation. I'm sorry. Speaking of terminology, I get my words
It can
right.
cause inflammation, though.
Yeah, to your arthritis. um, you know, defamation to character, slander of that person in public, use of that person's name without permission, using that person's information without permission. If you're gonna go and write these negative papers, I hope that you have permission, and I hope that they are aware of you writing these things about this person, because one of these days it's gonna backfire on that person, and it's gonna happen. That person's gonna go to jail or get sued or something, and I think that's one of the reasons that people are so afraid of opening up and sharing, their work or their locations, or they're not welcoming feedback or criticism, because they're afraid of these type of people to prey on them and ruin their reputation. I mean, I've had people try that, against me. And, first of all, what is freaking wrong with trying to teach the public, what, coming from my experience with, my years of being involved in the paranormal community? I've been involved for a very long time. What is wrong with giving a class and saying I'm giving a class on methodology, on I'm not saying they're the proper way of doing things, but from my experience, I think they're the better way of doing things. And then you have people turning around and saying, "Oh, make sure you know what you're getting involved with, getting involved in before you go and sign up for this class." Screw you. Like, who the hell are you? And that's why I think in my personal opinion, that's what's wrong with the community.
Yeah, I mean, I have a problem with somebody who is a skeptic, a true skeptic that interacts with people professionally and provides constructive criticism. But when you get into the pseudo skeptics and the cynics and the nastiness and the name calling, yeah, that is a problem. And honestly, that's why one of the reasons in science there's anomalous peer review. So you don't know who you're reviewing, and you don't know who's reviewing you. And it's supposed to be all based on what is presented, how you did it, the methods, the data. So if you're talking about the class you're doing, yeah, anything, it's based on, and if you're comfortable with what you're presenting and what you're doing, you got to be comfortable with it and own it. And, quite honestly, don't, other people are going to say what they're going to say. We're both in a field that we're going to get criticized, but there's a way to do it professionally. And there's ways to just kind of, pull somebody aside and say, hey, privately, maybe, here's my opinion. But yeah, I mean, you got to be careful when you're out bashing people. Got to be careful about it, especially in this day and age. Yeesh, everybody's going to sue everybody else. Yeesh, yeah, you got to look out. But I mean, there's no reason for it. I mean, there's a level of professionalism. And like I said, what you've done in the past, what you've built up to, if you're comfortable with it and you can back it up, no matter what point of view you're coming from, and if it's fact-based and you believe in it, you shouldn't have a problem. But there's a lot of fighting within the community, and it's really sad. And people need to, kind of come together and work together and be professional about it. But there are going to be people that and you've seen them, Matt. The people that they should be instructing people, they shouldn't be. And yourself and others have to come in and clean up that mess. Yeah. That's what you have to do. But I think you just really need to be professional, and people need to really come together as a community and work together instead of all this bashing and hate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, life is short, and I've surrounded myself with more positive people in my life, and as well as I think other people should change their ways and surround themselves with better people to do better things for yourself. And I think if we all kind of tried to work together and put the fighting aside, for a stronger purpose of making the field a better place and the community among everybody a better community. I know it's a far reach right now. You know, there's just too much animosity, there's too much drama, there's too much personality, too much conflict with everything. Will we get there someday? I'm hoping, but um, maybe one day we will, I mean, we're trying, and I know there's a large group of people out there that are trying, from, you know, uh with doing things the right way. Like I'm one of those people, Dave. I know you're a group and people you work with. You work with a group of individuals that are also trying to go that direction, and which is, I just think that's the way to go. And like you said, I agree with you 100% with professionalism. Are we, is what we do professional? No, but professionalism, if we treat each other with respect, I'm not saying you have to respect that person, but if you were professional with that person, um, that could go a long way. I mean, I don't know. Try.
Yep. In the words of the famous Ron Burgundy, stay classy, San Diego.
There you go. There you go. I don't know. This episode was a big rant for both of us. I mean, it's a big topic. It's a heavy topic. If you guys have any thoughts or views on what we talked about during our show, feel free to, reach out. You can drop us a line on our Facebook page, comment on our YouTube channel. It'd be great if you can, subscribe to us. Just use that little bell in the top corner. Just hit that. You can subscribe to our channel, and you'll keep up to date with our information. Um, and yeah, other than that, Dave, any other closing thoughts?
Just, I think that everybody made some good points tonight. And yeah, there's going to be those believers and skeptics, pseudo skeptics, cynics. And sometimes, you just kind of figure out where you want to pick your battles, but you're always going to have credibility if you follow a certain methodology and you're honest and you collect and present all of the data. And that's the only way the field's going to move forward. And be professional and offer people constructive criticism and be willing to take constructive criticism. And just be helpful to each other. That's the big thing. Don't just criticize either way. Don't anybody on either end tell somebody else they're stupid or they don't know what they're talking about, but offer a way to improve, work together and improve things. So
see their point of view and work with it.
Yep. Just try to see their point of view. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
It can be really difficult sometimes.
I
but work together
to do better.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are ways to do better. And I think as a community, we all need to work to be better. Everybody on both sides.
I think we need to be more of a peer community rather than be a competitive community.
Yeah, that's you've tried that, and we tried to do part of that. And if you want to, it's tough. It is tough.
It's hard.
It's tough. But if you want to be peer reviewed, start publishing your stuff in peer reviewed journals. That is the first way to become peer reviewed and taken more seriously. Yeah. And some people don't.
Hard to be there.
Yeah, but there's different journals at different levels. I mean, but you know what? An easy way to be peer reviewed. And we've talked about this. Put your crap on your website. Everybody has a website and a Facebook page. Put it out there. And explain what it is.
Phone number. That's a big point. Nobody puts their phone number out.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just my opinion is, if you want to, you got to put your stuff out there and explain it and be willing to defend it. And I think, people who do that, they gain respect of everybody. And that's the way we got to move. So that's it for me. That's all I got.
Yeah. All right. So, well, Jen, thanks for being our guest in the background.
the peanut gallery.
I love you. I do. And you just are always in my heart.
Yeah, you guys are too. So,
all right.
I wouldn't have chosen a better video podcast partner.
got a 2-for-1 deal tonight.
So,
All right,
but no,
cool.
thank you guys, and thank our listeners as always, thank our viewers, and I want to wish everybody well and have a great night. Just keep up to date with our Facebook page. You'll find out what topic we're gonna plan for our next episode. So, hang in there. Just stay tuned for our upcoming events and for our show. So, thank you everybody. I want to wish everybody a great night and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.
Yep. Have a good night. Enjoy that football game. All right. Good night.